Burley Blakrinkan. I'm the director here at the Ignite Hub. This evening, we have a very special panel for you. As you know, the Ignite Hub has two guest speaker series, Future of Tech Lunch and Learns, that happen on the third Thursday of the month. And then we have our Fireside Chat Career series, which is on the first Monday of the month. And tonight is special because at Montgomery College, we are celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month. So it was really important that our programming reflects what the college is doing and what we're doing in this country as well, about making sure that all of our diverse and inclusive community members see themselves represented, in this case in STEM, but in all industries and fields as well. This is very important. Our guest speaker series are sponsored by the Verizon Foundation, so we can thank them for dinner this evening. So thank you for clapping. Yes. Thank you. So before we get started, I would like to introduce Dr. Sonia Pruneda Hernandez. She is the acting college-wide Dean of Education and Social Sciences, who has some special words about Montgomery College, this program, the monthly celebration that we have, and that we are a Hispanic serving institution. If you'd like to come up.
Thanks. So good evening, buenas tardes, bienvenidos to everybody. So something that is really important is that the reason we're here is because we actually have representation of Latinx and STEM panel. And that is sometimes very unusual. And so Montgomery College is designated as a Hispanic serving institution, which means that we have 29% of Latinx students. And the Latinx, it's either Latinx or Latin-A. A lot of Latinos prefer Latin-A to Latinx. So I'm using Latinx, it's what's been commonly used. But I know if some are watching, some of our Latino faculty, staff, community prefer Latin-A. What we do know that is important and it's critical is that STEM, high earning and high need fields such as science, technology, engineering, and math are important for our students and our community to actually see. Our community students and future students need to visually see the representation in all areas, as per the saying, if I can see it, I can be it. A serving institution is one that intentionally supports to serve Latinx students and all students. So that's different than enrolling. We just enroll students. We want to serve our students. The Ignite Hub, in collaboration with Dr. Antonio del Castillo-Olivares, organized and planned this event along with many events for Hispanic Heritage Month here at Montgomery College. It is one small step to ensure that Montgomery College is moving to what is being called a Hispanic serving institution and not just that enrolling institution. So we are so grateful that we have that representation. And this is dear and near to my heart. I was telling them earlier because my son is going into STEM and I want him also as a Latino male to be able to see this representation, which, as he also says, it's extremely rare to actually see this. So hopefully he is logged on with a bunch of his friends at one of the universities.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists that we have today. First, we have Dr. Antonio del Castillo-Olivares. He is a professor and a program advisor in the biology department and a member of the college-wide curriculum committee for Montgomery College. Dr. del Castillo-Olivares is a native of Spain and received his PhD in cellular and molecular biology, master's in biochemistry, and bachelor's in life science from the University of Malaga, Spain. Dr. del Castillo-Olivares also holds a certificate degree in pedagogy from the same institution and is one of the fellowship recipients from the UNESCO Sustainable Open Education Initiative and a Paul Peck Humanities Institute Smithsonian Institution Fellow. For the past 30 years, Dr. del Castillo-Olivares has balanced his passion for teaching with a love for scientific research. His research experience ranges from cancer redox systems, cancer nitrogen metabolism, cholesterol and bile acid metabolism, sex determination, transcriptional factors to human immunological molecular interactions. During his research career, Dr. del Castillo-Olivares has mentored many undergraduate and graduate research students. One of his current side projects focuses on the use of virtual reality technologies for teaching labs in virtual environments. So welcome, thank you, Dr. Del Castillo-Olivares. Our next guest is Patricia Sauceda Kramer. Patricia was born in Sinaloa, Mexico, Mexico. She immigrated to the United States as a child and grew up in Arizona. In 2005, she joined the United States Army and served in Iraq. In 2010, she left the Army to pursue her education. In 2018, Patricia graduated from St. Andrews University magna cum laude with a bachelor's degree in psychology. She went on to graduate from Adler University in 2020 with a master's degree in psychology and is currently a doctoral student at Adler in industrial organizational psychology, focusing on equity, diversity, inclusion, and justice. Patricia is a proud member of Psi Chi National Honor Society, Society for Human Resource Management, the American Psychological Association, and the Society for Industrial Organizational Psychology. Patricia is the principal Hispanic portfolio employment strategist at the National Institute of Health, and as such, she aims to ensure that Latinx talent has opportunities and fair employment practices at NIH. Patricia was attracted to this role because it enabled her to work with people of Latinx backgrounds. It also aligns with her educational background in the kind of work she is hoping to do for the rest of her career. So welcome, Patricia. Our third panelist this evening is Colonel Angel Estrada, United States Army. He's a native of San Juan, Puerto Rico. He assumed the duties as the Deputy Director for Supply Headquarters Department of the Army on August 1st, 2003, overseeing supply policies and procedures used by Army logisticians throughout the world. He holds a bachelor's degree in biology, an MBA from Trident University, and a master's in national resource strategy from the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. During more than 24 years of service, Colonel Estrada has served in multiple units and divisions in New York, D.C., Hawaii, Korea, and Germany. Colonel Estrada's combat tours include deployment to Kosovo in 2001 and 3 deployments to Iraq in 2006, 2008, and 2011. Colonel Estrada most recently served as the 16th Sustainment Brigade Commander in Germany, responsible for 4,200 soldiers and their families stationed around multiple locations in Europe. His awards and decorations include the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star Medal, the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Combat Action Badge, the Parachute Riggers Badge, the Basic Parachutist Badge, and the Air Assault Badge. Thank you, Colonel Estrada, for joining us. So as you can see, we have a phenomenal panel of Latinx represented here. And I'm very honored to serve as your moderator this evening for this outstanding panel. So what we'll do today or this evening is each of our guests have a question. So they will initiate and they will answer, and then the other panelists will join in. So without further ado, I will start with the first question, which is for Dr. Del Castillo-Olivares. What inspired you to pursue a career or studies in STEM, and how did your Hispanic heritage influence your journey in this field?
Okay. What a nice complicated question. I see 2 things, two parts in this question. First is what is my inspiration for the career, and then what happened with my Hispanic heritage. The first part of this question, what inspires me, I have to say that I was inspired to study biology by my father. He was an avid reader. He loved books. I always remember my father with a book in his hand reading. And he always got books for me and for my siblings. And most of the books, or at least the ones that I liked the most, were books related to animals, plants, natural sciences. If you fast forward a few years back in Spain, I reached the age where I have to go to the university, and it's like, okay, what do you want to study? I had two options there in my mind. One was I want to be an architect. I love architecture. But the other one was I like to study biology. At the end, what happened is that back in Spain, in the city where I was living with my family, there was no school of architecture in that university, but there was an amazing school of biology. And among other factors, that's what decided me to say, okay, biology it is. So out of this first reflection comes my first advice to the students, which is have choices always. Always have different choices. Don't think that there is just one door or one answer to your question. As an advisor, I always receive students that their question is, if I study biology, what am I going to be working on? Do I have work? Am I going to have a job? If you study biology, study it because you like it, and it's going to open you many different doors in the future. And you can study biology, you can study pedagogy, you can study architecture, you can study many things. So don't narrow yourself from the very beginning. Be open. That was the first part of the question. The second is about my Hispanic heritage and how that influenced my journey in my field in STEM. I have to say that, as I said, my family is from Spain. We live in Spain. And I must admit that it only became an issue being self-aware of my Hispanic heritage once I moved to United States. When I was living in Spain, that was not an issue. I was exactly the same as everybody else in the room. And nobody told me that I had a funny accent. Everybody seems to understand very well what I was saying. So, but once I arrived here, all of a sudden that became a reality, okay? And I was aware that I discovered that there was a lack of representation in the STEM field, in the research laboratories that I was doing and where I was working at the time. I saw that there was a lack of representation at the bench by the laboratory. And among the administrators and among the faculties that were taking writing the grants, the research grants, and so on. But I talk a lot with Oscar. Oscar was the janitor that came every night into the laboratory at 9 p.m. when I was finishing up my experiments, and I talked to him, and he told me his story on how he crossed the border. And that was powerful for me. That was when I said, wow, something is happening here. And one thing he told me was, here we said, man, when I first arrived here finally, and I get to LA, I was so afraid to open my mouth because I did not understand anybody. And I knew that at the very same moment that I opened my mouth, they were going to put me back. And that's my second message to the Hispanic students that we have, especially if you are coming directly from South America or Central America. Learn English. That's the first thing that you have to do here to be successful in STEM, because it's going to determine the rest of your career and how people look at you. I still get mad sometimes when I go to McDonald's and I order through the drive-thru, and after the first time they say what, they transfer me to Spanish speaking. And as a personal point, I keep speaking in English to that other person. Thank you.
I can add something. um, hearing Dr. Antonio, I was thinking a lot about the necessity to learn the language. When I was young, I think I told a couple of you that we came to the United States when I was 7 years old. And my first experience in the United States, in the United States education system, was, even though I was a smart girl, I didn't understand the instructions that my teachers were giving me. And so I couldn't lean on my parents because they only spoke Spanish. And so one of the things that I did was I started to, I took up reading, and I would check out like whatever the limit was in my school library. I would check out that many books and just, dive in the books. And this resulted because I ended up flunking the second grade because I could not understand the instructions. And so it became I think a thing of pride to be able to understand the language and try to get, have like mastery over the language. And that also resulted though in the scrubbing of my accent, which I recognized very quickly in growing up in the Southwest, that you would be there were microaggressions and discriminations based on if you had an accent. And even to this day, when people find out that that I'm Mexican, they always question, like they always ask, like, so how come you don't sound like you're Mexican, or which one of your parents is Mexican? Assuming that maybe the other parent is American, right? And so I think that it's important to understand the language, but also don't lose your identity, and don't lose don't lose pride in your heritage. I think it's okay for us to show up as we are. It's taken me 40 years to learn that. And so I think as we go into these areas of STEM, in which we're very needed, right? It's okay to show up as, Patricia, Sauceda, Kramer, or Claudia, or, Eugenia, or just, be yourself. We need to challenge some of the biases, and we need to also challenge the sort of Eurocentric I'm trying to think of an appropriate way to say it. We need to challenge existing systems and show up in STEM as we are.
Okay, so I'm gonna share a different perspective. So I grew up in Puerto Rico, and as we grew up, from first grade to 12th grade, we take at least one English class through 12th grade. And then within Puerto Rico, it's all good and fine until 20 plus years ago, I have to leave the island, and all of a sudden I'm in the United States. I have a big accent. I've tried for many years to perfect this. It's not gonna work. So if you have an accent, just acknowledge it. Okay, enjoy it, because guess what? That makes you a little bit special too. So you have to look at certain things as opportunities as well. Although this is something I just learned maybe 3 years ago, a weakness, right? And that's called, and I don't know if you know about it, it's called the imposter syndrome. So I wish I knew that long time ago, because I've been dealing with this for many years, and I had no clue, right? But now, I'm self-aware. Listen, team, English is my second language, right? Regardless of, as I was going through college, as I was going through the military, now I'm being invited to be a guest speaker in many places. But it's that imposter syndrome. It's behind my head, saying it's like, oh, Angel, if you say that, that's gonna look bad. Oh, Angel, you gotta rehearse. Oh, Angel. So just understand, if you have that weakness, acknowledge and practice. Also, when you're trying to speak English as well, I did it through music, I did it through singing, I did it through reading comics. So those were my three things. And then after that, when I show up to the United States, I just had to say, I just have to talk. I mean, I had no other choice. And I'll share a different story in some of the different questions, because because of me knowing those things at that age, it kind of like probably helped me making all the way to this panel this evening. So thank you very much.
Okay, Patricia, you have the next question. Could you please share a pivotal moment or experience that significantly shaped your career path? And what valuable lessons did you learn from it?
So many of you know that I'm a veteran. I served in the Army. And the reason I chose to leave the Army and not become a career soldier was because I wanted to, I've always been fascinated by the effects of war on communities, war on the people who are fighting the war. And so being an active duty soldier in the Army, I had friends who suffered with PTSD, many who had TBIs, others who had anxiety that had been exacerbated by deployment, stress, divorce, so many other factors that affect active duty soldiers. And I decided that I would dedicate my degree or the rest of my life to psychology. And over the course of it's been roughly 10 years because I started school when I was active duty. Over the course of my pursuit of a degree in psychology, I discovered military psychology at Adler University. And after that, I found a program in industrial organizational psychology. And I realized it took many years for me to realize that what I truly wanted to do was to help other Latinos put terms, find language to describe their experiences. It was something that was kind of deep in me, but it took years for it to come out. And I really came to that conclusion about 6 years ago, that I would pursue IO and I would learn the language and sit at the table and explain the experiences of Latinas, not just with gender, not just with like misogyny, not just with microaggressions, not just with all kinds of things that you experience as a Latina. But I wanted to be able to speak to the powers that be, the people who hold the power, be able to speak to them in their language and explain to them what people like me experience. And some of these experiences were also from the Army, being a woman in the Army. I think someone here can agree that being a woman in the Army, you are sometimes like challenged. Why, Patricia, do you want to be a tank mechanic? Why instead don't you choose to be an MP, a military police? Because I want to be a mechanic. So I am constantly, I think in like my everyday life, I'm constantly challenging stereotypes and biases. It's what I love to do. So for those reasons, I chose IO. I think I can help my colleagues. You all know I work at the NIH, so I'm constantly looking at opportunities to educate individuals and to challenge their perception of the experiences around them. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, so I'm going to share one with you, right? Very pivotal moment. So it was, and for the students out there, it was, I believe, my third class, biology class with Miss Eva Morales. I was studying computer science back in 1995 because it was the good thing, right? The computers are going, every printer was, remember, there was barely no internet, and I said, you know what? So this is my path. I'm going to go computer science. So I didn't do too well in the flow charts and all those things. And as I was going through it, I went through this class, Miss Eva Morales. So she transformed my life in a class. The way she taught, her professionalism, the way she inspired, and I don't know if it was just me or a couple of us, it made me change degree to biology. So from that experience, I changed my entire degree to biology, and by doing that, it opened thousands of opportunities with research, scientific research, teaching assistant. I mean, it opens out thousand different things. So my advice is, when you see something and you're passionate about it, follow it. Don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, do you want to be a mentor? Do you want to be my coach, my teacher? Because we take that very personally, and we want to help. And I've been blessed to have people that took care of me. And since then, I started with 1.7 C average in high school. I graduated with 3.89 cum laude from biology. So it's how one person, can change your life. So I offer, if you're looking at somebody, just ask. Do not be afraid. Ask. Do you want to be my mentor? You want to be my teacher? So I just want to leave you with those thoughts.
Okay, me after them. Let's see. One pivotal moment in my life. That one is an easy one for me. Is the moment I decided to stay here in the United States and not come back to Spain. That was a before and after, clear. No, that's an oxymoron, I guess. Like, that's the ultimate change in your life. It's like, go to a different country, stay there. You don't speak the language very well, and see how you do. And it's about all the skills that you learned when you were in the school, or with your family, with your community. That's what is important, because it's coming to you, and that's it. I was feeling at that moment, I'm alone, but I have a lot of knowledge that I get from my people back there. I'm gonna use that to survive here. And it worked. This connects with what I was saying before as an advice to students. Use your college education to open doors. There is no one predetermined pathway that just because you study computer, biology, physics, is going to determine what type of jobs you are going to be getting. Nobody can tell you that. You just go, study, keep learning new things, new possibilities. You increase your network of people that you know, and then you all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm not going to do computer science anymore. I'm not going to do architecture. I'm going to do biology. And what's going to happen tomorrow? Who knows? Maybe I end up in the army, or maybe I end up studying cholesterol metabolism in Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia. It's not about getting the certificate either. It's about getting the deep skills that are going to stay with you the rest of your life. Whenever you start seeking for a job, the person that is interviewing you doesn't really, guys, it's not that important whether your degree is from Harvard, Yale, or the University of Montgomery College. What it means is this person has proved herself or himself can do it. It has a discipline, work discipline. It says that it's going to be here at 8 a.m. It's going to be here at 8 a.m. If it's going to be done by Friday night, it's going to be done by Friday night. That's what it's all about. But with that also comes my other lesson that I learned. Going back to that, you need to learn the language. And hearing what you just said is also what we are also talking here at Montgomery College as a Hispanic Service Institution. We need to start helping our students that have problems with English, and we need to offer them review classes or classes themselves in the language. We are now, for a few semesters already, a number of faculties in several disciplines have been giving review classes in different languages. Spanish is one of them, French, and several others. We are doing so in biology. Some have been even teaching specific history classes in Spanish. And I say to my fellow faculties here and over there in the internet, let's keep doing this. Let's keep exploring this. Let's keep pushing this, because it's why? Because it's good for our students.
That's just so powerful what all of you have shared, and how your path determined that one person or that one experience or that defining moment of I'm staying here and starting something new here in this country. All of those are really important experiences that you shared and reflect our community here in Montgomery County. Every day there are people making those decisions, or they remember their biology teacher, or they remember their kindergarten teacher. So of course, being here in a higher education institution, we know that each one reach one. You make a difference for one person. So that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Colonel Estrada, you have the next question. As a successful professional in STEM, or having started your professional career in STEM studies, what advice do you have for Latinx individuals who aspire to pursue careers in technology and science?
So I have two, and I gotta ask, because I'm not sure if this is done, but do you have a program where students can be assistants to the teacher or the professor? So for example, if I'm a calculus professor, you're one of my good students, and I say, hey, help, the class, and they get actually paid, right? Okay. So that is one, right? If you are passionate about a subject and you have that relationship with your professor, and you have the ability or the opportunity to be a teaching assistant, I mean, it helps you. You earn money, you build networks, and it opens a lot of opportunities. So that's one. The second one is doing or conducting scientific research. I mean, there are probably plenty of opportunities out there. I'm backdating myself probably 20 some years ago, but I'm assuming there's probably still a lot of opportunities out there, regardless if it's psychology, right? Mathematics, because I remember I was one time applying for a math research, biology, organic chemistry, whatever it is, right? If you have the opportunity to be part of that research, that allows you to couple of things: open opportunities for future grants, future fellowships, trips to different universities. I remember I went to South Dakota, because our university had a consortium with a Indian college. We have to drive almost 6 hours to the Indian tribe because it was an exchange program. And so that's like me in Rapid City, Dakota, being able to visit Mount Rushmore and all those things, and then going to visit these natives, and by the way, discuss the research they've been doing with water pollution and all those other things, right? Another one was going to Boston, to Massachusetts, and being part of a conference for 5 days, presenting my own research as a student. And then your publication, it gets published, it's very good for your resume. So if there's opportunity for teaching assistants or scientific research, take it, because it opens a lot of opportunities. Thank you.
Actually, one of the things that I identified we have a lot of tours at the NIH. And I would say we live in a specific area where there are a lot of federal agencies out here that you can go to, that you can visit as a student. Those opportunities are there. And why the reason that I mention this is because if you think you want to be, you know, you want to get into any degree in specifically, it's okay to look at what that looks like on the other side. So to give you an example, I recently hosted a cohort that came to visit us over the summer from Puerto Rico, and their professor, their faculty member, works at the VA. And these students were part of a VA program, and so it was a life-changing experience for them. And one of the things they said was, wow, we don't have this kind of equipment. I walked them through the labs because I wanted them to see that if they chose a degree in any one of those areas, any one of those institutes that we visited, this is what it looks like. So to be able to actually see something concretely, like here, you know, these are no longer concepts, they're no longer theories, we're actually applying this work. And so I wanted them to just be able to see what that looks like. And the student said, we don't have these kinds of, wow, like we're at the NIH, it's like Disneyland of science. And they said, the equipment here is so expensive. The only time we've ever seen stuff like this is on TV. So it was like a bucket list item for some of these students. And I couldn't believe that I was involved in like creating this memory for them. And so it got me thinking, okay, these students are from Puerto Rico. What about the high schools and colleges here? They're like 15 minutes away from us. Where are they? We need to open our doors to students to show them that they belong. And so I would say, if you're a student and you are curious about a specific role that a specific career that you want to follow, look at what's out there for you. There are many tours. I'm of course, I'm like shameless plug NIH, but there are other organizations that you could look at. And if your college or university doesn't have a club that's dedicated to STEM or a specific niche that you're looking for, create it. Create the community. Be the person that creates a community for your fellow students.
So yeah, and some of the things I'm gonna be saying is kind of what they have already been mentioning during today. Hispanic Heritage Month. What is our heritage? To me, Latinx, our heritage is resilience, determination, and community support. Those three things are very important in our heritage. And with those three things, oh boy, you can do big things in your career. Use them during your STEM work. Having said that, specifics, one of you mentioned, believe in yourself and in your abilities. Recognize that you have unique talents that belongs to you, to your heritage, is with you. The others don't have it. Don't fall for the stereotypes. Don't self-doubt. It's going to happen. Self-doubting is going to stop you. It's only going to stop you, right? Our background is a source of strength. It's not a limitation. Seeking mentors and role models. If you are a student is ready, learning, starting to study in any of the areas of STEM, look for a role model that can be your mentor. They have already gone through the same problems or part of them, and they can help you out. The third one I'd say, I have it written here in my notes, is embrace failure as a stepping stone. Don't be afraid. You are going to fail in many of the things that you will be doing. But out of those failures, you can gain insight. You can learn things. You can gain new friends. People that you thought that you were not in agreement all of a sudden is like, you know what? I agree 100%. Embrace failure as a stepping stone. In my case, don't fear taking risk, or fear it, but do it anyways. I was very scared when I decided not to go back to Spain and leave all my people behind, but they're like, you know what, I'm gonna do it, and let's see what happens. And lastly, I will say, once you are doing that, like you were saying, pay it forward. Help somebody. Make your own club. If there is no club, do it and say, hey, I'm here. I'm ready to help you. Those are my thoughts on this question.
Incredible. I mean, from what I heard a lot of things, but what I heard was look for those opportunities, be a teaching assistant, find early exposure. If you're just curious, go. You don't know what will happen. And then you gave us our wonderful, what makes our community and our Hispanic heritage so amazing. Those are values that are taught to us. So all of those things together, those are wonderful advice and lessons that can be in any industry, any field. And in our case, we're talking about STEM. Okay. Dr. Del Castillo-Olivares, you are next. In your roles in Montgomery College or NIH or in the Department of the Army, what are some initiatives or projects that you've been involved in that promote diversity and inclusion in STEM?
Okay. As a faculty of Montgomery College, I have to say that I am very happy and I admire the college commitment to promoting diversity and Latino inclusion in STEM, especially because that's the area that we're talking now. Especially happy days now because we have recently named the Hispanic Service Institution. Now everybody, it's a buzz and everybody is happy about it. And let's see if that's not and then comes down. Let's see if we make something real out of all this. This designation underscores our dedication to serving the Latinx community and fostering an inclusive environment for all our students. We have the opportunity, the unique possibility to initiate many actions tailored specifically for unrepresented students. New doors are opening for us. I'm talking now especially for the Latinx individuals. These programs will be designed with the goal of breaking down barriers and providing much needed guidance for our students in support of excel in STEM fields. We can create mentorship networks where we connect Latinx students with experienced mentors in STEM areas. Why not? That's something we can do. We can initiate a comprehensive review of STEM curriculum and resources to make sure that they are accessible for all our students. And as a part of that, I'm thinking on, again, the Spanish language and making sure that we can offer our students the possibility to take classes in other languages. I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to do it. I'm saying that that's something that we need to do for our students. I'm going to stop there.
I think many of you know that I work specifically the Hispanic and Latinx portfolio at NIH. And the reason that I work that is to address underrepresentation. And so one of the things that I'm doing is reaching out to the community. And I always think back to growing up in Arizona. I grew up in Yuma, Arizona. There's an NIH campus in Phoenix. My brother has lived in Phoenix for like the last 20 years. I never knew there was an NIH campus in Arizona. And, that gives me pause because I feel like I should have at some point at one of the schools that I attended, like Arizona Western College, that the name NIH would have come up somewhere as an opportunity for me, even a field trip, like in high school or something. So when I think back to that, I think, okay, there are probably other Latinx students who don't know that NIH exists. They should know that NIH exists. It should be a household name. You should know that you can get a job there. You should know that you can do an internship. You should know that you belong there. And so my job at the NIH is to look at, okay, what policies do we have at NIH that are potentially barriers for Latino employees? What are we doing to promote our Latinos? What are we doing to create community? So I'm involved in a lot of outreach efforts. For example, in October, I'm going to go to Haku. That's going to be an opportunity to, reach out, meet students, tell them, hey, I'm Patricia and I work at NIH, come visit, that kind of stuff. And so just getting out there, I'm putting the word out, just letting people know, like, it too is a place for you. It's not a lofty goal to want to work in STEM and be Latino or be a person of color.
So I'll bring a different perspective from the Department of the Army. Maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, I was the Colonel's Management Officer. So that is Army talent management to hire all 6 colonels within the logistics world. So almost 4,200 total colonels in the Army, about 472. I was like their HR manager. So totally out of my comfort zone. This is 100% talent management. So I was responsible to provide senior leaders, 4-star generals, 3-star generals, with the potential moves of colonels across the Army, right? But part of that planning and those observations was diversion and inclusivity, right? So how many 06 colonels have been in that command, right? What has been their diversity? Have they been black male, white female, white Hispanic, a Latino followed by a Latino followed by a, so I have to do all that analysis across the spectrum to provide them with options, but also to ensure that everything was inclusive and the diversity was in there, because it's huge for the Department of Defense, and it's been for many years. So I was fortunate enough, don't know how I ended up doing this job, but as a Latino and as a Hispanic, I think I was able to ensure that that senior leaders could understand that if you don't put certain officers of certain diversity at certain ranks, then the representation is not there. So that's just an example from the Department of the Army.
And we are so lucky that you were out of your comfort zone and it's a formal part of your job. And you make sure that as a faculty member that you have many initiatives that you're working on to make sure that we're inclusive. So that's amazing. Next question we have is for Patricia. How can educational institutions like Montgomery College better support and encourage underrepresented minorities to pursue STEM education and careers?
I would say, as having been a young student once, one of the things that I really struggled with was navigating college, because I was the first person in my family to pursue higher education. And so as organizations, institutions of higher learning, what are we doing to make sure that we're supporting our students who for the first time are coming on campus, don't know where to start? And I know that we have, guidance counselors and we have other things, but is there more that we can do to sort of demystify the process of education for them? I didn't have someone that I could, my mother has sixth grade education. My father finished preparatoria, which is high school in Mexico. So and also they didn't understand the education system in the United States. So I couldn't really go to them to say, hey, how do I fill out, a scholarship application, or how do I fill out, this FAFSA form, or what do I do if I need to, transfer a class, into another class, or whatever the case may be. There were many gaps in my education when I first started school. And I think about that for a lot of our Latino or Latinx students is, are we reaching them? Are there perhaps events like this where we discuss and demystify that process for them? So I would say for the institutions, definitely just try to reach the students where they are and understand that many of them are navigating new spaces. And so they're going to need that hand holding a little bit. And then also one of the things that I'm really kind of trying to push right now is alliances. So we have I'm here now. I'm your contact, and if you ever need someone there are members at there are researchers at the NIH who would love to be mentors to students. I've spoken to them. Some of them sit in my engagement committee. So let's collaborate. And it's just, I'm just one person, but there are probably many individuals in different organizations that would love to collaborate with institutions of higher learning. And so this is how we pay it forward.
Okay, can you repeat the question again? Well, I think what you mentioned is very clear, right? So it's from the Montgomery College perspective, because I am 100,000 feet up and then looking down at this question. There's nothing that comes straight up, just let you know, physically, but yeah, I better pass it. I'm gonna pass the microphone to the doctor here so he can help me out.
So I know the college because I've been here for 14 years, and I have a few ideas of things that we could do to help our students, Latino students, but because we are during the Hispanic Heritage Month, but these are good for any other minority student. Scholarships and financial aid. Financial barriers are often going to stop underrepresented minority students from the very beginning. So we need to get somehow scholarships and financial aid for them. We have our financial aid program, but we need to get somehow scholarships where everything will be paid for to them. Counseling, but it has to be culturally sensitive counseling. We need people that know our community to counsel our students because we have special needs that other groups don't have. And we need to be aware of it. And it happens for other minorities. Why it cannot happen for our minority? We have already mentioned mentorships. And I will take your word on that. We'll be talking back to you, I believe, soon. Inclusive learning experiences. Creating inclusive classrooms and learning environments is very important, paramount. That's how I get to my online laboratory ideas. That's how I get to try to include virtual reality teaching laboratories online. When we offer online classes, the population of students that take real online distance classes is a small population, but it has very specific needs. One super important need they have, all of them, they cannot come to campus to study, period, for whatever reason. Most of the times it's work or family. That reality does not stop or does not differentiate between a lecture and a laboratory class. It's still there. You cannot, if we claim that we are here to help all our students, there is a group of students that cannot come Friday mornings to see me in the laboratory, even though we have the lecture online. We have to be able to provide meaningful laboratory experiences to those. Laboratory experiences that are absolutely comparable with the experience that they will have when they come to the laboratory in person. I prepared, for example, a couple of years ago, I believe it was, right? I prepared some kids. I did a sabbatical, and during that sabbatical, I developed some kits. The idea is that the student gets in a box in their houses, in a box, all the materials that they will need to do the experiment that they would be doing at home. Now, the idea is not really mine. I saw this company that is selling science toys to kids online on weekly basis. When I was a kid, probably the EPA and the FDA will not allow that anymore, but when I was a kid, we received a chemistry toy set there with a whole bunch of different bottles with who knows what chemical compounds there, and they give it to us to play with. I don't know how am I here, but that's originally where my idea is coming from. I remember that. And I'm like, why cannot we do something similar for our students? We did it, we ran it in our department. It was a success. It worked. It can be done. So we need to be able to, in science classes specifically, to serve our underrepresented students, we need to be able to make sure that they can have laboratory classes online as well. Okay? Celebrate our representation is crucial because we celebrate the success of Latin STEM professionals and highlight our contributions, and we can be roles for our students. Believe me, I don't like when people talk about me and my career. I'm shy. I get embarrassed, but if it's going to help somebody that is starting to say, well, it can be done, then I'm willing to suffer it, I guess. And research and data collection to write good grants to work. That's it.
Yeah. So I heard Patricia say we need to meet students where we are. And Dr. Antonio, that's what you did. You tested and piloted a way to meet students where they are so they can participate. So that's happening in real time. Very nice, very nice. Okay, last official question of the panel, and then we're going to open it up for question and answer, both in person and for our guests that are with us on Zoom. So get your questions ready and write them down. So Colonel Estrada, could you please discuss the importance of mentorship and networking in your own journey and offer insights on how young professionals can leverage these resources to advance in the STEM fields?
Okay, mentorship and networking. What a powerful words. As I mentioned earlier, right? Do not be afraid to reach for mentors. I learned that a little later in my career. And right now, I can tell you, Eva Morales, my biology professor, still my mentor. I went back to college 23 years from when I saw her. She's still alive, not teaching anymore. Uh, my physics professor, he was my mentor. Francisco Medina, my math professor, he was my mentor. And many, as I gone through the military career, and you probably attest, some of those, like you probably saw somebody that you look like, said, that that person inspired me, right? Like, that senior mechanic inspires me. I'm putting it back in your track mechanic. But in the military, I've but it's also personal, right? There are introverts and there are extroverts. I am 100% ENTJ. For those of you that know, those right? But I understand that everybody's different, right? So there are introvert person that is a little bit difficult for them to look for those opportunities. But if you see that you can help somebody because they're very, very, very good, they just don't know how to do it, just help them out. And then networking, I'll give you an example. 5 years ago, I met Antonio over a barbecue, and we just met each other. We had no clue. Hey, I'm in the military. Yeah, I'm in Montgomery College. And then a couple of times later, it was like, well, so what do you do in the military? Well, I do this. So what do you do in Montgomery College? Oh, I'm a molecular cellular biology. I say what? Hold on, my friend. Guess what? I see the molecules in my head. I remember my chemistry class. Like I could, and then I start asking, like, what research? To me, it's a big deal. I'm just talking to a person in a barbecue. It's like, Antonio, listen. So it was. I mean, and I'm very intrigued, right? Because I know some of the how do you do research, and when you have to ask for grants, and then get approved, and they don't. And fast forward to maybe 3 weeks ago when I get this invite, right? Because he knows what I've done in the military for many years. Because although he might not understand it all, but he knows that I work in the Pentagon. And he said, "Well, Angel, you know what? We love to have you over, to be part of this panel, right?" That is networking. That is just just a simple sample of networking. When we leave here, I'm going to get her contact information, right? And, I look forward to creating something for the Hispanic officers in the United States Army, So that's networking. So as you go through your student careers, make sure whoever you are, your teachers, your friends, keep in contact, right? If you have whatever LinkedIn or I don't know what, it's networking is gonna make a lot of difference as you continue to go, through your student life and your career. And I love this topic, so I'm gonna pass the mic because if not, we won't live tonight.
Networking is powerful. I can attest to that. I would say that when it comes to mentors, I am more introverted. I think I'm a trained extrovert is the best way that I can describe it. After I, do any kind of public speaking or I'm in an event that I'm facilitating or whatever, I do feel like I have to go back home and just kind of decompress and maybe sit and read a book. But I think it's okay to be brave and ask. Sometimes you have to tell someone, hey, you're going to be my mentor. And they may look at you funny, but chances are they're going to be flattered. My capstone project, like professor for my psychology degree, he became my mentor. And because he was my mentor, he put me in touch with a group of individuals who were putting together a pilot program that was going to service only women veterans to reach their specific needs, things like daycare, health services that are specific to women here in DC. And so I sat on the board of this program as serving as secretary. I never would have done that if I hadn't chosen Dr. Buchner as my mentor. And I say chosen because I just ask people like, hey, will you be my mentor? I recently at the NIH, one of the things I'm extremely passionate about is intersectionality and addressing or finding parallels between our community and like the Black community, because there are so many parallels with these two communities and Indigenous communities, and we can go on and on. But there is an individual that works at the National Cancer Institute that is an IO psychologist who I met through sitting in a colleague's meeting for her engagement committee. I met Dr. Muhammad. Dr. Muhammad and I, then I invited him on a panel discussion to talk about the conversation was code switching and the psychological impact of code switching. And we recently held that. And so over the course of these different panel discussions, Dr. Muhammad and I became, fairly close, like, work relationship. And one day I just said, Dr. Muhammad, will you be my mentor? I don't think he felt that he could say no, but it's these kinds of opportunities. You meet someone like today, I may meet someone that I'm going to stay in touch with for the rest of my career. And this is how we do it. You just by chance meet someone and then they introduce you to someone else and so on. So sometimes it seems like opportunities or these events are not going to be impactful, but you just never know. So reach out to these individuals who you think might be beneficial.
Bravo. So yeah, it looks like mentorship has been one of the words of the night, right? And it certainly has been during my life and my professional career. The way I see it, mentorship has, again, three important components to me. The first one is guidance and insight. Mentors bring you a wealth of knowledge and experience to your life. They can help you with career choices, with studies, with research direction. When you have a problem, they can help you to solve it, offering you their opinions. Mentorship is also going to open you doors because now you know that mentor, the mentor knows you, and the mentor will open some doors for you, believe it or not. And it gives you professional growth and personal growth. It's beyond a professional aspect. When you have a mentor, you establish a relation with that person that it goes beyond the professional. Now you create a relation of trust, which is very important between a professor, a teacher, and a student, or between a professional and a higher up professional that is helping you to take or make strange or weird or difficult decisions. So I will say, based on that, for the students, seek mentors that resonate with you. Mentors that have the same career goals or that have success in the career goals that you have. Be proactive. I am a fake extrovert. I am an introvert, but at some point you just have to say, you know what? That's it. I'm going to fake it. And I'm going to have to ask somebody that knows a lot if is willing to be my mentor. And once that person says yes, you have to, that's my last piece of advice, or in this advising in this mentorship thing, you have to respect their time. Don't waste your time. Don't go to a meeting with your mentor unprepared. Go with specific questions, take notes, and follow up with your mentor. Don't ignore their advices. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And here at the Ignite Hub, we're intentional by design about networking and mentorship. That's specifically why we have a community dinner and invite our guest speaker and our community members to come in. And we invite people such as yourselves to come and be on panels. So the hub is intentional about that. We know the value of that. And I'm proud to be part of, like you said, creating those memories. I'm proud that I'm with a team that's creating those opportunities for our community to come here as well. So that's what gives me pride and joy in the work that I do. So those were our formal questions. This is where we get to open the floor to our guests. In the chat, I have the iPad here so I can see the chat. You can put them in there. And of course, anybody here in the room? Is anybody courageous enough to start with a question? Okay, thanks.
First, I'd like to thank you for all the insights that you've shared with us today. There are so many questions that I could ask, but the one question that I've been thinking about since I'm here, an employee at Montgomery College, and we're focusing on being a Hispanic serving institution. And you talk about your responsibility, your roles that you're doing yourself, but if I don't identify as Latino or Hispanic, how can I serve the Latino community?
Great question. How can you be an ally? Who would like to address that or start? Patricia? Okay.
Thank you for asking that. I talk about allyship all the time. You don't have to be a member of the community to help, to mentor them. In fact, my mentors, none of my mentors were Latinos. Dr. Buchner is white. Dr. Muhammad is Black. None of my mentors have ever been Latinx. So you can help someone and not necessarily be from the same ethnic background. Allyship is so important because these efforts really do take a community. And so, like when I talked about meeting Dr. Muhammad, the reason I met Dr. Muhammad is because I like to not just, I like to do, what's the word, like not just preach, but actually act on, what I preach. And so I'm a member of the engagement committee for the Black community. So one of my colleagues is the chair, and I go to their meetings and I take notes, and I'm involved, very heavily involved in that community. I'm not Black, right? But I can still help. And I see the need, and I'm just, you have to just be willing to first be humble that you're not going to know everything about the culture. Be willing to learn and be willing to help.
Yeah, so I have, and this is an observation that I have, even within the military niche. Just like you, I have all my mentors are all Black, white, male, females. I mean, there's none actually. Yeah, I do have a Hispanic mentor of mine. But an observation within the Latinos in the military is, so you have Mexicans, you have Cubans, you have Salvadorians, you have, Puerto Ricans, you have all this, right? It's a whole different culture, right? Because I grew up differently, right? You as a Mexican is a little different, right? And what I've noticed is some of us kind of like, oh, well, you're not Mexican, and this is within our own, groups. So I've paid a lot of attention to those, and I say, listen, no, this is one team, one fight, one family. We have to help every single body out, regardless of, cultural grievances or cultural differences. No, we're Hispanic, we're Latinos, we're big. So let's get together and get united. So I just wanted to share that from a personal observation which I've been dealing with, and I will continue to like help at least within the military.
If I can hold the mic hostage for just a second to say, there's a saying in Spanish, haz el bien sin mirar a quién. So do good regardless of, the direct translation is do good without looking at who. So in other words, help without being specific about who you're helping.
Absolutely, yes. And it's a great question. It's like, if you don't belong to this community, what can you do to help? Of course, you can do a lot of things. And I put myself and I reverse the role. What have I done to help other minorities? I have taken professional development classes here at Montgomery College to learn about inclusiveness and diversity. I have taken professional classes to learn about our safe zone. I have learned the proper use of pronouns. I approach with humbleness and with respect, and being aware that I am an ignorant and I will be making mistakes along the way, and asking for forgiveness ahead of time, and asking questions and making sure that whatever I do helps to the other community. Anybody can help us from that point of view.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I'm the moderator, but I'm just going to add in that I've also witnessed, even though there's the allyship, as you have those conversations and as you get to know, you see parallels. I've seen members of the Salvadoran community talking to people from Ethiopia, talking about picking coffee. It's the same experience, 2 different continents, but that is the same. So even though it appears on the surface, maybe we're different, there's actually a lot in common. So any questions? I don't see anything in the chat. Anybody here in the space have any more questions? Sure.
So in thinking about the military, specifically the Army, I know as in the ranks, as people move up, and as in many organizations, we see less and less, not just Latinos, but less minorities in that representation. And so being first generation into anything, whether it is college, whether it is positions that we come into, there is always there's policies that you see in writing, but there's also a cultural that's unwritten. And many times what we find is that as Latinos, as Blacks, as when we are those first ones pioneering, we don't know how to navigate that. How do you learn that? And I know with your position, I know with some of your positions, it's been, you may have been one of the first. I'm thinking specifically, Colonel Estrada, where you're at. But so our students that are listening and others that are listening is, how do you come in as a minority underrepresented group? How do you navigate and how do you learn the unwritten? What do you do?
Very good question.
Well, I think from my very beginnings, even as a second lieutenant, I was very passionate about people, and I was very genuinely caring about people. So it's a leading aspect that's different from other leaders, 100%. You got leaders that you got to do this because you got to do this, or I'm going to follow this person because he's true, he's authentic, he's going to. So that's, so I've grown up in leadership positions that way, right? I entrust people, I empower people, and what do I get in return? I get 150% of their time. They will move mountains for me or for the organization. Like, they'll do all those things. But it gets to a point where I'm at now, right? So now is the Department of Defense and the headquarters of the Army has a very good selection board for general officers, and is I don't know how it works, but it is very good. Looking at the Hispanic representation at the general officer level, it's very extremely tiny. Even in my branch, there's 0. So when you ask me, how do you navigate those things? So, personally, I don't think about it, because if I think that that's going to happen, then I'm spending energy in things that probably are not going to happen regardless, because there are senior leaders or the Army system or the DOD has a way to do certain things, right? So it's either I've moved off to my career up to this level, which is incredible. Like personally, like I was going to be a battalion commander, a lieutenant colonel, and that was good. And then I just finished commanding the sustainment brigade, providing critical supplies to Ukraine for the past 2 years. I moved thousands of troops throughout Europe. Hispanic, right? Hispanic with my sergeant major. Oh, another Hispanic one, right? But then, so what's the staff composition? White, male, female, Hispanic, Hispanic, Hispanic. So you are leading an organization which you are it. Like everybody's looking at you, and whatever you do, you're scrutinized. So you have to be fair and impartial, disciplined 100% across the board, so that you know what, when I tell them, hey, this is not this way, I'm not worried that I'm gonna get a equal opportunity complaint, or that I'm gonna get a complaint of sexual harassment, because you know what, the way I lead is fair, it's respectful, it's so from a leader's perspective, a Hispanic leader, how do you percolate all that through the chain of command to create a culture where people wants to go to work? That was my intent. By the way, I didn't want any suicides in my 2 years in command, and there was no suicides in the 2 years in command. So all that to say, it's I am to a point where my reputation is there. I build a reputation throughout the years. Senior leaders know my reputation. Other people through networking know my reputations. Remember, you never know who's talking about you. You never know at what time somebody might be like, well, hey, I have this conversation with your friend, and now all of a sudden NIH and things happen to you, and you had no clue that people was mentioning your name. So I don't lose sleep over it. Sometimes I get passionate because I want to represent so I can help, but it's in the hands of God. And if it's for me, it's for me and my family. If not, it's gonna happen some other time. So I've been very very lucky to have served at the locations where I have served, at the historical times that I have served, with the people that I have served. That has given me the strength for not just me and my wife and Sophia and my daughters, like the whole family, to reach to this point. And I keep going. Let's see what happens. Yeah. So when you talk, and this is for students, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? It's to me, as the organizational leader, I had a acronym. It was CRET plus T equals no trouble. C stands for care. So I gotta care about myself. I gotta care about my family before I care for my troopers, right? R is for respect. I will give your respect if you give me the respect regardless of your rank. It doesn't matter. If you disrespect me as a high-ranking officer, you lost my trust, 100%. The next one is E for empowerment. So, you know what? I don't have the time. I trust you. I empower you. I'm telling you, you can do this. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but don't pass this line. And guess what? When you empower somebody, they just go at it. They just go 100%. D for discipline. There's nothing we can do in the military without no discipline. And it's simple discipline. Waking up early in the morning, going to physical fitness training at 0630, be information at the time, but cleaning the vehicle. I mean, it's simple. Having a clean office. I mean, it's clean multiple, like it's simple observations. Plus trust, right? If you do all these things plus you trust your soldiers, there's no trouble. You don't get no things with the police or the military police, or you don't get a DUI, or you don't get, all these things. So that was my charge as a senior leader in organization. How do I create a culture that's conducive to standards and discipline, where everybody's happy to come to work, and if we go to war, we'll go and defend our nation against our enemies, foreign and domestic.
Sure. I think so my last rank in the Army was sergeant, and my last job in the Army was working at the battalion level. So I had 3 bosses: the command sergeant, the battalion command sergeant major, the battalion commander, and the executive officer. So I ran my own staff. My staff was pretty diverse. And one of the things I would get criticized by other sergeants, other NCOs, was, Patricia, you treat your soldiers like they're your children. You're like a mother hen. Because I refused to lead in a very sort of concrete way. I didn't believe in leading with a one-size-fits-all strategy. My mindset was identifying the needs of my soldiers and giving them each what they needed within reason, because you have policies and you have, organizational norms, right? But I felt that meeting my soldiers where they were helped them to develop trust in me. I was not a micromanager. I've always despised micromanaging. I think it's condescending. That's just me. You should, if you train your people, if you train your staff and you empower them, they're going to want to hustle. They're going to want to work harder for you. They'll go to war for you. And so empowering individuals and treating them like, adults. So I think that when it comes to leadership, I think that you have to have, correct me if I'm wrong, emotional intelligence to be able to gauge who your staff is, to be able to do the work that you need to do. So you have to create an organization or a workspace that is free of like toxicity. You can't be like the toxic leader. As people, you'll lose people that way.
Yeah. We are right at 8 o'clock. So we are ending our formal program, but first let's thank our panelists again for their amazing words and wisdom and experiences. And thank you for being vulnerable with us. That's really important. And that's how we make connections with the community when they see themselves in panelists such as you and anybody else who comes here through the hub. So thank you so much for spending your time with us this evening. I do have some thank you gifts, swag, for you. So I'm going to hand this out. Thank you for coming. That's for you, Patricia. Dr. del Castillo-Olivares and Colonel Estrada. Thank you so much. On behalf of the Hub team and Montgomery College, yes, you have something you want to say? Thank you. Say.
I just want to say one thing, and he's gonna kill me for it, but it's his birthday.
That is extra special for you to spend your birthday with us at the Hub. Thank you. Thank you. Before we end, a couple of things. One, we have a survey. So please, please grab your phones or any other devices, or if you're online, click the link. Please fill out this survey. We want to know what you thought about this. This was a perfect example of collaboration in the college. So it wasn't just the Hub, it was Dr. del Castillo-Olivares, Dr. Pruneda Hernandez, inviting people to be involved in Hispanic Heritage Month celebration. So please let us know. We take your feedback seriously. The Hub team looks at it each quarter, and I call it praise and polish. What did we do? What can we do better? But we really do take it seriously. You want to say some words? Okay.
I want to give credit to where credit is due. I just said, hey, let's have a Latinx. That's all. There was a meeting and I said, I think we need a Latinx. And it's only because my son was involved and he's like, oh, maybe a panel. And then he took the lead. So I know he's more of the introvert, but the credit actually goes to Dr. Antonio Olivares. So mine was a simple, hey, we should have this. So
We have to have somebody who initiates the challenge. So thank you for that. So thank you for taking the time to fill out the survey. And we're doing something a little new at the Hub this year. At each of the Hub tables, under the chairs, one chair has a badge on it that says, congratulations, you're a winner. We have some Hub swag to give out. So check under your chairs. If you're the only one at the table, you are allowed to go around to the other 4 chairs and look. It's like a name badge. It's it's big. You'll see it. Check all the chairs. Check all the chairs. So while you're looking, thank you. Oh, okay, yeah, we got a winner. We'll be coming around with the